What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/ProRevenge.
This story's called My Worst Customer Ever. So, a couple of years ago, I had a guy that emailed me back and forth for months. He was pretty cool, but picky beyond belief and couldn't decide on what he wanted. Finally, he ordered this ultra deluxe 4-player arcade machine wrapped in Star Wars graphics. He spared no expense, spending $3,000 plus $220 shipping. The machine arrives in Melbourne 5 days later, and he calls me up losing his crap. It's been damaged by the freight company. I send everything fully insured, so I assured him it was okay. He's covered. Please send me the pics of the damage. It was only very slight, nothing cosmetic, but the console was a little dislodged as they must have stacked something heavy on it. I assured the customer it could be fixed. I'll contract a cabinet maker to come out to him and repair it at my expense. Then I'll go through insurance later. Nope, he didn't want that. So I said, okay, I'll arrange for a collection and have it brought back to me, and I'll issue him a full refund, including freight. Nope, he didn't want that either. Okay, I said, what would make you happy then? It's something easy to fix. Perhaps I can pay you what I'd pay the contractor, about $250, and you can fix it? Nope, he wanted a full refund and he wanted to keep the machine too. I said that won't happen, insurance won't allow it as the damage is tiny. It's like car insurance. They won't write off the whole car for minor damage that can be fixed. He didn't care, he wanted a refund. I said they won't do it, and I certainly won't pay out of pocket. Either I'll arrange collection of the unit at my expense and issue a refund to him, or we have it repaired. Nope, he paid via PayPal and he's putting through a dispute because the item didn't arrive as described. I advised him that PayPal's rules also state that in order to get a refund, he'll need to show proof that he'd sent the item back or arranged with the sender to have it collected. Nope, he's keeping it and getting a refund. So I advised him that what he was committing was fraud and theft. Also, PayPal will freeze the $3,220 in my account, and I'm not at fault here. That's what PayPal does, you see. If anyone lodges a dispute, they automatically freeze the funds in the seller's account. It's guilty until proven innocent with them. It can also take up to 90 days to resolve, sometimes 6 months. I know, it's happened before. He didn't care. The next thing I knew, I had a notification from PayPal. The funds were frozen pending the dispute. The next step is stating your case to them, providing evidence, etc., where they relay the info back and forth between the buyer and seller. PayPal always sides with the buyer. Sellers are a piece of crap as far as they're concerned. If it can't be resolved between buyer and seller, then you can opt to have PayPal decide. But their decision is absolute. I provided my transcripts advising the customer that I'd collect the item and refund him, and he provided them with a fake pickup receipt. As far as they knew, he's done his part, now he's eligible. So they ruled in his favor. So this effer now has his money back and my $3,000 machine. I was fuming and he wouldn't answer my calls or emails. I'm a big guy and I had a rough upbringing in a tough neighborhood. So I was about to jump into my truck and drive the 900 kilometers south, knock on his door, and watch him crap himself as I repossess my machine. But my wife, being the voice of reason, calmed me down and said to try legal avenues first. Coincidentally, he emails me 3 days later and says the computer in the machine stopped working. I replied, "Which freaking planet do you live on where you steal an item then complain it doesn't work?" I laughed out loud and he said he had an IT guy. A few days later, after that, I get a call from a guy saying that his friend bought an item and the hard drive is dead. It was his IT guy, and I don't think he knew the whole story. I asked him to find the serial number, it's just the date it was built and the iteration. For example, 231-220-1901. He read the number out and I said, "Oh, it's in warranty, send it back and I'll send a fresh new one." He bought it and sent it back. Now note that he said the hard drive disk was dead. That's a good thing. If it had been the computer, he could just use anything else and use the hard drive disk as a backup. But since it was dead and now I had his computer too, he has to buy a new system, which would set him back at least $450, but he still couldn't play games on it. You can download the apps, but there's a ton of configuration work and button mapping, etc. IT guy calls me a few days later asking for the computer, and I told him the story and nope, he can go screw himself. He also laughed out loud and asked how hard it could possibly be to just download crap. See, what he didn't know is that I have a little failsafe built in. The encoder I use isn't mapped to the default keys on the apps. I changed everything around on the hardware to stop people trying to just clone it. It's not hard to get around, but most people aren't familiar with the nuances of emulators. Inevitably, I get another call a few days later from a different guy saying he'd built his own machine but couldn't get it working. The symptoms were exactly that of trying to get my controls working on a different system. It was definitely the IT guy fishing. I played dumb and said, I didn't know, sorry. Now this guy had an empty, useless cabinet, so he left me a 1-star review on Google. It's since been removed, but it read something like, "Poor quality build, flimsy, system didn't work, do not buy from these people." I was about to jump into my truck again and drive down to that love-making face. But again, my wife is like a bucket of ice water on my fire. So I wrote a long letter to PayPal attaching all of my evidence of his fraud. Then I responded to the 1-star review with the attachments to the emails and his admission to committing the fraud. Then I displayed his name and email address to smoke him out. He immediately called and said, "Look, no hard feelings, okay? But I received a damaged item and I'm entitled to compensation. Remove my details." He was getting spammed relentlessly, but he seriously believed he did nothing wrong. I told him he can go screw himself and to enjoy his useless machine. I was still burning though. I forgot about it after a few weeks. PayPal didn't respond, so I cut my losses and moved on. But then something beautiful happened. It's as though the universe aligned and said, "Hey, OP, we're not going to crap on you today. Here, take this gift on a silver platter." I was on eBay looking for old, non-working machines I can buy and refurb. There's good money to be made doing that. A one-day refurb can pull in over $1,000 profit. He's listed my machine, but contrary to his Google review, the description was marvelous hand-built arcade cabinet built by a master carpenter, flawless finishing quality, missing computer. Good for a DIY project. I'm not a carpenter, by the way. He had it listed for $1,100. That was still $1,100 pure profit to him since he got it free. I bought it under my wife's account and had it delivered to my home address. When I sent it, it was wrapped in about a 4-inch thick layer of bubble wrap. When it arrived, it had a flimsy single layer less than 5 millimeters thick. The courier who dropped it off was the same guy who picked it up from me. We were good friends and he knew the story. So I said I was going to damage it, make it look serious, but nothing I can't fix in a few minutes. He agreed and said that he'd log the damage as due to insufficient packaging. Insurance won't cover it. I knocked the panels out from inside so it looked like the machine had been crushed. Realistically, I only had to reset the screws and it was good as new, but it looked mangled. Then I sent Melbourne Richard Head the pics and complained about the damage. He said it was insured. I advised him that the courier said it was insufficiently packaged and that it's not covered. I want a refund, take this back. I knew he wouldn't take it back, it was totally useless to him. He said he didn't want it and he'll refund the freight. I said, nope, I can't do anything with a damaged machine. If he doesn't do anything, I'm filing a PayPal dispute under item not as described. He wasn't happy, played the victim and played on my sympathy, still not realizing who I was. Eventually, after offering me partial refunds and getting rejected, he relented and told me to keep it and he'd refund me in full. He must have realized that his greed wasn't worth it and it cost him nothing. So now I had my machine back and I was happy this was over with. Still pissed at this guy's audacity, but that's not the end though. It gets better. It gets deliciously better. Someone at PayPal Business had finally read my complaint. Since I do a lot of work through PayPal under a business account, there's a kind of concierge service, although not really, kind of like a priority service. They actually went through my complaint, verified that his pickup docket was actually a year old and unrelated, and read the transcripts of him intending to keep the machine and get a refund. They refunded my money in full. Now I had my machine back and $3,000 of his money, and he couldn't do crap because he got caught for fraud. Can't dispute crap if you got caught being dishonest. He called me up losing his crap. I laughed and said, "Sorry, mate, it's karma. It's purely up to my goodwill to refund you. Go suck a doorknob." He pleaded and begged, swore a lot, pleaded more, and I said, "I'll think about it." Legally, he had no leg to stand on, but I have scruples. I donated it all to charity on his behalf. I sent him the receipt. He lost his crap some more, but now there were kids with food and clothes because of his douchebagness. Go eat a schlong, Michael. Yeah, I hate PayPal. It's come into clutch for me a couple times, but oh gosh, I was trying to sell, I think I've told this story before, but I was trying to sell a thing and it ended up being broken and before I could send it. And so I refunded the buyer his money, but then he also filed a dispute, and so it took the money from my bank account as well as the money from my PayPal account. So I was out money, like I was in the negative from this transaction, and they still haven't fixed it. Screw you, PayPal and eBay. You're jerks. Give me my money back. Like $100, dude.
This story's called Steal My iPod? Screw Your Laptop, a story from 2007. I posted this on ProRevenge, but after thinking about it, it actually may be better suited her. Imagine being in high school, back in the latter days of George Bush, and finally buying that iPod of your dreams. After saving up your allowance and the money you made around the neighborhood doing random-ass work and lifeguarding at the local pool. Yep, that was me. And I was that douchebag 14-year-old who would make sure you knew I had one of the better iPods. One that could play video. It was the latest Nano, if I remember right. Simpler times. But every story needs an antagonist. My sister happened to find that role many times. We are very close now, but back then, it wasn't so rosy. She was a teenager as well, and spent most of those years resenting me. If I had something nice, screw you for having that. I was quite protective of my precious iPod. She raised quite the dookie tornado when my parents refused to buy her one. "Your brother saved his money. We didn't pay for it." "We are not stopping you from buying one too if you save your money." That was their attitude toward any luxury that us kids wanted. Even up to that time when buying a first car was on the table. We each had to buy our own. It built character and taught responsibility. Well, that iPod goes missing one day at home when I knew damn well I had left it charging at the family computer. I left it unattended. My parents confirmed they did not touch it, and all eyes were on my sister. I'll jump ahead here. As it turned out, she had indeed taken it and had one of her friends temporarily store it until the heat was off of her. She knew my parents would essentially strip search her. After this unraveled, one of my buddies saw her with the iPod at school several days later. It was time for payback. Back then, I like to think of myself as a bona fide hacker. That's right, I knew all about batch files and how to open command prompt. Don't frickin' cross me. You have no idea what I'm capable of. Yeah, anyway, we don't talk about those dark days. But I actually did know enough to copy-paste some destructive commands into scripts using delete and reg delete commands and the like. In the days of Windows XP, this would essentially require reinstalling the OS. I also was aware of a program called Bat2X, which could package your batch files and associated files, it would call from the same directory, into a normal exe file. And you could pick an icon to slap on that exe file if you had the ICO file on hand. It doesn't take a genius, because as much as I thought I was one, I wasn't, to devise a plan here. I put a script together with the worst crap I could muster and gave it the Internet Explorer icon. This went onto my sister's computer, which was an old Pentium M laptop which barely had enough ass to load MySpace at the time. My hacker abilities allowed me to log into the administrator account by booting into safe mode or something and simply replacing the Internet Explorer.exe main file with my science experiment. I believe I had it to where it actually opened the real Internet Explorer in parallel, so I could deny this more easily. Fast forward to that magical moment. She's home from color guard practice and is ready for an evening full of crappy webcam photos that use every mid-2000s effect ever created. But before she can upload them, disaster! The screen resolution goes tits up, and the color profile is 16 colors for some reason. Random pop-up messages every few seconds. Microsoft Windows has detected a giant cooter! Please consider a system upgrade! And stuff like that. Your hard drive is jammed with peanut butter! Restart required! The whole script plays out, and she's left with a paperweight until someone can get around to sorting it. Unfortunately, the computer guy in the family took quite a while to get around to it. My dad knew damn well that I had something to do with this, even if he didn't understand it fully. He made my sister apologize to me before I helped her with the laptop and made her buy me a new case for it, after she threw away the one I had to try and make it less identifiable. Well, that's a story, folks. I have a video from 8+ years ago of this script running in a virtual machine if anyone wants to see it. Hope 2021 is off to a decent start for you. Feeling supersonic. Here's a video. I made this after submitting this to ProRevenge in 2013. I forgot completely I had done that back then. My old account got banned in 2013 because I told someone on crap Reddit says to grow up or something. This version used the Chrome icon, and I remember tweaking it a little so it would execute most of the payload on reboot. I had uploaded it at one point after some people requested a copy. I can try to find it, but I am almost certain it was on the external hard drive that died after I dropped it years ago. Anywho, to people asking what happened to the iPod, I got it back after learning from my buddy that she was going to have it on her. She was in a world of crap from my very traditional discipline that child parents, in addition to her laptop being a boat anchor for a few weeks. Very freaking solid revenge, my friend. Plus, I enjoyed how you wrote that story. It was a fun time to read. But yeah, that's crappy of your sister, man. Glad she's not as mean nowadays. She's grown up. I'm curious, who's older though?
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.